This is the interview with Lucas on the 3rd of January 2015. We are in London at McDonald's. Hello, Lucas.
Hi.
What does it mean to be an Eastern European?
Personally, for me, it doesn't say anything, and I think this is maybe a stereotype.
And when you read a newspaper and they say that Eastern Europeans this and that, how does it make you feel personally when someone refers to all of us as one nation?
Well, it kind of bothers me, just because of one person from Eastern Europe doesn't say about the whole place, about the whole countries, and easier for them.
Back in Lithuania, whenever people refer to the French, the English, the Dutch, do they say all Western Europeans?
No, never. Actually, never. All the time we use the names of the countries, and we never say, it's from Western Europe. Never.
Putting all of us into one jar.
Yeah, that's a great saying. Yeah, and we're all put it in one jar, and that's how they judge us.
I read somewhere that the Lithuanian culture is somewhat closer to the Nordic culture than the Slavic. Have you come across anything like this?
It's kind of a mix of everything. I know that there's a lot of same traditions with Poland or with Latvia. Well, I think that the most influence was from Russia due to the history issues, that Lithuania was a part of the Soviet Union, and also from Poland as well, because we were the same nation at some point.
Lithuania is quite a homogeneous nation. It's about 84% all Lithuanians. Do you think it affects the culture to some extent?
It does affect the culture.
Does it preserve it?
Yeah, a lot. Being different in Lithuania, you don't want to be different in Lithuania because
What happened?
It's really hard. People judge you, always, and you get these looks around you, and strange looks. They judge you by your appearance or by the way you act, and by your outfit, by your clothes. So Lithuanians are very, very conservative. A lot of people, if they see people from another countries, from maybe a black person, they always turn around. So it kind of bothers me, and I don't know why they do that, but.
And would you say that the Lithuanians like it this way, that they are not letting other nations in?
I could say that, but not a lot of nations want to go to Lithuania. Yeah, I sound bad right now talking about my country like that.
What could Lithuania do to be more attractive to other races and other cultures, other nations?
That's a great question, but I think that the biggest problem is with the people, and it's really hard to change the whole nation, and maybe my kids, maybe they would be different.
And do you think Lithuania in some way is ready to take on, let's say, immigrants from other cultures?
Well, first of all, Lithuania doesn't have a lot of jobs for Lithuanians, so I'm not sure if people from other countries would be able to get a job there. I don't think that it's ready, not at all.
From you said, I gather that for a country, in order to be ready to take on some people from different cultures, you need to make sure that the level of unemployment is quite low.
Yeah, exactly, and the unemployment rate is really high at the moment, so a lot of Lithuanians don't have proper jobs, so they migrate, they emigrate from Lithuania to somewhere else, to Spain, to Western Europe, as we call it. Well, we don't call it, but we can say
We should
that.
take revenge and call it Western Europe, yeah. What made you come to the Western Europe?
Everything is so different here. Well, first of all, I came here to study, which I will, and I was actually studying in Lithuania as well, but I didn't like it, so I stopped after half a year of my studies, and I decided to come here.
You didn't like the course? You didn't like
I didn't like
staying?
I don't like the educational system in Lithuania and how it all worked. It's quantity over quality, so and that's the biggest issue for me. So yeah, that's why I came here.
And how long ago was it?
I came here 2014, 19th of March, so it's 10 months or so. So I'm new here.
And when you come back to Lithuania, would you say that you changed?
I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, I see things differently when I go back to Lithuania, It didn't bother me that much when I was living back in Lithuania, but when I live here and when I go back to Lithuania. Everything seems so different, and I see things that I didn't see before. You know, how people act and how they do things differently.
Okay, so would you say that this is the advantage of being an immigrant?
I could say that, but
So would there be any advantages of being an immigrant living in a foreign country?
probably for me, like the most advantage is that I change. Like, you know, if I live in a different country, I change. I can feel myself like that. I'm changing like every day living here.
And can you give me an example of a situation where you would change?
I don't stare at people that often. Well, when I was like living in Lithuania, I always stared at people. If I saw someone, I'd just, you know, look from head, you know, to toes, like everywhere. I looked at them, and now I don't look at them, you know, because in London there's so many people living here, so you just stop doing it like after a few months. I probably became more sociable, you know, like with people, just random people, like talking. And if you see someone like in the street and you just start talking with them, I don't feel, you know, embarrassed or, you know, afraid of saying something bad. Or like in Lithuania, it's different. If you talk with like strangers, they think that you're just crazy. So
Oh, so let's say if you were traveling on a bus somewhere far
Yeah.
in Lithuania, you would not talk to your co-passenger?
no, never.
No small talk?
Well, you can ask this bus is going, you know, the right way where you need to go, and that's it. But you wouldn't like make small talk with them.
So would you say then that Lithuanians are self-contained to some extent?
Yeah, I could say that. Yeah,
And living in the UK, does it help you open up to people?
it does. It does actually. Yeah, as I mentioned before, you know, it's for me now. It's easier like to talk with strangers and just, you know, making small talk.
And conversely, because we've just discussed the benefits of being an immigrant, what would be the disadvantages, the challenges of living in a foreign country?
So maybe the language barrier. What else? Job hunting is also challenging. Employers would rather, you know, hire a person for, you know, that is a citizen of the country than, you know.
So are you saying that we are not coming here to steal jobs? I'm kind of confused.
We are stealing jobs, but, you know, there is a difference between, you know, like bad jobs and good jobs.
And what's the difference? What are the bad and good jobs?
The difference is that, like, the Eastern Europeans, they steal jobs that don't need any qualification, you know, and like the good jobs, you know, are always English people. I think that they get like better jobs than Eastern Europeans.
Someone told me that only the readers of the Daily Mail or the Sun are the ones who complain that the Eastern Europeans come here to steal the jobs. Is that true?
I could say that, yeah.
Yeah, actually, talking about it, do you think it is fair? Let's say, imagine there is a Lithuanian who has got the qualifications for a job, and there is an English native, English citizen qualified with the same degree and also applying for the same job, and the employer is, let's say, English. What are they to do?
Well, I'm not saying, you know, that like English people are racist, but some are, like, and I know some people as well who are. And but yeah, if there's some kind of situation, first of all, I think that the employer would look at, you know, at the qualification and, you know, experience of a person, you know. So
What sort of job actually are you planning to get once you've finished your education?
I would love to work maybe in the European Parliament or the European Commission or the Council of Europe. I don't want to be a politician.
And would it be your ultimate job?
I think that it's like my ultimate job, because at first, you know, I'll probably work somewhere lower, you know, somewhere local or
I have noticed the pattern that in the Eastern European countries such as Poland, people tend to stay in a job for a longer while when compared to working in the UK. Is that true?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I know a lot of people actually as well who, you know, who came here to study or to do something about their lives, you know, and they end up just working for 8 years in the same workplace, you know, and not getting further from there, you know. So, yeah, I could say that. Yeah.
But do you think that people in England change jobs more often?
Like compared to Lithuania. Yeah, of course they do. You know, if they get an offer, they usually I think that people take it. You know, and like in Lithuania, people are more local. They don't wanna move anywhere or like change their jobs. You know, because it's perfectly fine at the moment. You know, and they hate their bosses. You know, but still they're working there and
And what makes you uncertain?
uncertain.
Let's say, what makes you uncertain today? Would there be any question I could ask you and you would be, I'm not sure, and not sure meaning I'm kind of frightened to think what will happen. And in Lithuania,
In Lithuania,
if you lived in Lithuania now, what will make you feel uncertain?
probably about my future, like about my job or I don't know my life in Lithuania. Probably I would be like uncertain about that and probably afraid as well, you know.
So even though this is not your native country, you would still feel more secure in terms of job opportunities here than back at home?
Well, in terms of job opportunities, probably yes. You know, because I live in London, and if you come to London just to work, it doesn't make any sense. You know, people here they come to make careers. You know, to make something out of their lives, and in Lithuania, it's kind of different. You know,
How is it different?
it's different because it's really hard to make a career unless you know someone, you know. It's all about the relations, you know, between people, and it's everywhere. Everywhere is the same, you know, in politics or in businesses. It's always, you know, if you know someone, you can get in and make a career. If you don't, you'll just end up like working the same job like all of your life.
There are two proverbs I'm going to tell you. One proverb is time is money, and the other proverb is Rome was not built in one day. Which one you believe in more often?
I would say the second one. Rome wasn't built in one day, you know, because you always need to reach for everything, you know, and you always need to work hard unless you want something, you know, and no pain, no gain.
Do you catch yourself sometimes that it's kind of clashing with the culture here in Western Europe, where time is money?
I think that, yeah, it happens. It happens a lot. If not you, then someone else will do it, you know, so, yeah.
And would you be ready if you had a job opportunity? Would you be ready to adopt time is money approach at an interview or just to elbow your way through the competition?
It would be hard for me because I'm not that really competitive.
And do you think that's the Lithuanian thing?
No, I wouldn't say that. It's kind of a personal thing.
So have you met any Lithuanians who are so competitive and head-on?
Yeah, of course. Most of them that I know work in finance, so like in Canary Wharf or the city.
And how long have they lived in the UK?
Well, I know this particular person who has lived here since like for 5 years or so. And
do you think these days when you come to Lithuania, you said that you felt slightly different, but if you were applying for a job in Lithuania, let's say in a week, would you use some of your English tactics?
Well, yeah, probably I would.
And what's the Lithuanian relationship to nature?
I remember my literature teacher. She always told me, that Lithuanians are the people who would rather go to the forest, hug a tree, and start crying. Yeah, we're really close to nature. That's what I miss actually living here.
Is there anything I didn't ask and you think is important when you talk about Lithuanian culture?
Lithuania is a small country, but with a huge culture, like with a huge history, and yeah, it's not all bad things. And people who are listening should definitely check Lithuanian history and just read something about it.
So make it easy for them to research about Lithuania. 3 things that are different and that you could be proud of about Lithuanian culture.
Lithuania was one of the biggest countries during the Middle Ages. Lithuania was one of the last countries that was baptized, in Europe. So that's why probably we like nature so much.
So deep in your hearts, you're still pagans.
Yeah, we are. I could say that. Oh, right, the language. Lithuanian language is actually one of the oldest language in the world, and one of the hardest languages to learn as well in the world. So.
That's not encouraging.
No, it's not, but Lithuanian language is very beautiful.
Thank you very much for the interview.
Thank you.